All right, so there's a new tool that came out that is somewhat overpriced. It's called Perplexity Computer. What is Perplexity Computer? What I've seen from a lot of the bigger LLM companies is now for you to build applications. For example, Eric doesn't have a lot of free time. He doesn't have a software development background. He may know technology, but all of us know business use cases. So I paid the $200 a month for Perplexity to figure out, why does anybody need Perplexity Computer? And I'll be honest, it got released. I posted up on the WhatsApp group not quite a month ago. It was on February 25th. I tried every day and I had no use for it, over and over and over again. And then for whatever stupid reason, 48 hours ago, the light bulb hit me. Perplexity has paid licenses for financial services. They've got a direct feed for Crunchbase, or for PitchBook, for Statista, for a whole bunch of different financial services. And they've got really good data sets. So I was like, you know what? I taught a group in Dubai on how to manage your family office using Claude. So I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if I had real-time data and this at the exact same time? Rithika, who's one of my business partners, sent me an article that a guy built an entire Bloomberg terminal using Perplexity. So I'm going to show you what I did. And Mario, I was talking to Mario, who's going to be talking a little bit later. I have spent a total of 30 minutes to build out what I'm going to show you. Now, when I mean 30 minutes, it's like 30 minutes of just prompting, waiting, and then prompting again. So the wait time, delete that. It's more like the prompting, okay? So here's a use case. I want to invest. I want to know how the macroeconomy is doing, how that's going to affect my asset allocation across all the different asset classes. And I want to get real-time news and data and feed to be able to make those decisions. Caveat, I've been managing money for 25 years and I run a private credit fund. So that's a little bit of a caveat to this sentence. So I'm going to show you the end result and I'm going to walk you back through how I created it. All right, so this is right on the browser. You are also able to use this on your mobile phone, okay? So I now have, if you guys know who Ray Dalio is, Ray Dalio has a really good framework for macro. So what I did is I created a macro analysis. It's right now evenly weighted, but growth, inflation, credit, sentiment. It shows the proof. One of the things I've talked about in all my classes is do not trust any LLM. Show the proof. So get it to show backwards the proof of how it came up with it. What's the reasoning, how it got this information and where it got this information from. So that's the proof. So it pulled all this data, pulled in inflation data. I didn't tell it what to pull, but PCE is the main indicator that the Federal Reserve looks at. It gave the raw data, scored it based upon the scoring criteria, explains exactly what it is, where the data is coming from. And I can actually, because I don't trust it, I said, make it clickable so it will pull up the data so I can validate the information. So it went through all these, created the weighting system. I didn't tell it to create a macro radar. It just kind of created on my own. I have kind of this philosophy of 50, 30, 20 because it's simple, stupid. Safe bucket of 50%, growth, speculative. But as market conditions adapt, there's going to be a little bit of a weighting from one to the other. So it pulled all the information, created the score, the frequency of the data. And every time that I open this up, it will update daily all the information. Shows exactly how much to allocate to each bucket based upon some of my philosophy and how the market is going. I thought one of the really cool thing is newsfeed. So this is happening real time. It just pulled every article I'm biased. I have Bloomberg, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal. It has CNBC, MarketWatch, Reuters, and it's pre-categorized that news based upon the different category of the asset class. So I can literally click the article, and it'll pop up my Bloomberg accounts, and I can actually read the article right there. And I can filter it if I just want to focus on, say, fixed income. It'll pull up those. Like I said, I'm going to show you the actual prompt and how I did this. So again, this is Perplexity. This is where it says computer. So you just click computer. You can create a new task. That's what this is. And then let me go all the way to the top. Seems like I did a lot of work, but most of that is the thinking. So I put in here that I wanted a global macro engine and instructions. Now, like I said, caveat, I have a little bit of research and experience within managing money, but even all of this information was generated from Claude of all the rules, and that was based upon the top experts within managing money and assets. So that was just really a copy and paste from Claude. So it did all the work on its own. I don't even look at it. It built every single component. And then, let's see, finally, I gave it some feedback. So this was like the first version of it. It had some errors and issues, and you can actually download these. If you're an advanced user, you can actually download it, and you can use Claude or some other tool to enhance it the way that you want. Creates the checklist, went through the entire process, and then created the endpoint. Point is, if you have, let me see if I can find where I was giving some feedback to it. Sorry if this is dizzying to go through the screen here. As you can see, it's doing a lot of work on its own. There it is. So this was kind of my feedback. I was like, well, I want it to go at the bottom. The feed wasn't working. The news feed was working, but on the iPhone, it wasn't. I wanted to be able to like rearrange the layout. Like I said, it was maybe 30 to 40 minutes of actual prompting. Again, caveat, your prompts are going to be a lot better if you're an expert at something or you know what you're trying to do. But this is Perplexity Computer. And honestly, at this point, because it is just such good real-time data, and that's what Perplexity is really good at, getting information off the internet, validating that information from credible sources. I'm like, okay, I can see myself paying for the $200 a month based upon how much I'm going to be investing in making these types of decisions. I can add on, many of you know, whenever I was doing the live class on managing money, I have like a deal evaluator, evaluating deals across venture capital, across private equity, across real estate, based upon AI agents within each one of those different categories. All right, I'll pause there. That was one use case, which at this point now, so what is that? That's an investment of like $2,500 a year. Not cheap. It's one of the more expensive tools. But if I'm going to be making million-dollar, multi-deca-million-dollar decisions, and I'm getting real-time data, and I've got this platform that's able to pull the data, do the validation for me, do the research in the market for my investments, is it worth it? I mean, that for you, it ends up being a decision because could you build this in Claude? Yes, but it would be a lot of work. Claude is not really tool to be able to automatically fetch that data, bring it back into the platform. You can create the layout, you can create the application, but this is turnkey. You don't worry about data, you don't worry about security, you don't worry about anything. The application completely lives on its own within the box. What's the downside? This is not a tool that you can use for a lot of employees, right? It's not really shareable. It sits in your Perplexity account. So it's good for you, not good for everybody else. Now, like I said, you could download the files, share those files, and you could probably set it up with somebody else, but that's not really the use case that I saw so far. Is it worth it? Other than very specific use cases, it is very expensive to be spending $2,500 a year and not really knowing why you need it. That being said, if you are n- needing real-time data and you're needing it from the internet or some reputable set of sources, and you want to create a dashboard to be able to make key decisions, I think that's the use case. And it's set it and forget it. You don't need developers. You don't need other technical resources. You're able to get it to work end to end. Um, any questions on Perplexity Computer?
Yeah, hey JP. Would you be able to link this into a database that you have with data around your portfolio or so on, and it talk to it, so to speak?
Y- Yeah, the answer is yes. Um, good to see you, Sebastian. Uh, so you can you can connect it to another database. It will do that. Um, if you're in SQL, if you're in a traditional data structure, yes. I actually asked that specific question last night, where I was like, "How do you manage the data inside Perplexity Computer?" And it gave me a pretty terrible answer. It was just like, "We just manage the data internally, but we don't have a traditional database that you can access." So the answer is yes, and literally that was my you literally took my brain out of, the conversation because last night I was thinking, "How do I now link this up to my actual portfolio?" So if you remind me, what I'll do is I'll connect it to a few of my different investment platforms,
Huh?
and see if it will feed the data. So, for example, I'm on about 4 different investment management platforms. Plus, I have an incredible amount of like direct deals that I do. So, like in startups or other people's companies. And, Adipar is kind of like the 800-pound gorilla for managing everything, but it's really bad for international investments. So, I have investments in India, all throughout the world, in different currencies and stuff like that. I think because it's got real-time data, the currency is a good thing. Being able to get rates and where rates, are in different markets to be able to figure out that kind of stuff is gonna be really good. The real question is it going to be better than your wealth manager at such and such wirehouse? Um, so I was actually, with, Lyndon, who's also a fellow YPR in Jacksonville, Florida this, past week, and we were at the Players. And, one of my hosts was, Morgan Stanley. So I got to actually, you know, uh, pure transparency, I don't have an actual, wealth manager. If I'm dead, somebody's gonna manage it, that's covered, but I manage my own money. And so I talked to their top multi-decabillion dollar, head guy on how they're managing assets, 'cause I ask all my buddies, how they're managing their money and stuff like that. If you are trying to get some kind of edge that Morgan Stanley has on their platform that you can't get access to, then yes, you should probably talk to Morgan Stanley. I know you're in YPO and several of you are in EO and you're in companies with, a lot of connectivity. From a deal standpoint, where I get overwhelmed is I've got about 5 different groups that are sending me deals daily. I mean, like, every day I'm looking at deal. Well, at this point, I don't actually look at the deal. On many of the deals, I kinda like I've been too excited about deals lately, so that's another thing I gotta calm down on. But Sunita, who's actually on the call, is based in Nepal. Sunita, I'm putting you on the spot. Are you able to join on video? See if she's able to
Yes.
join. So Sunita is part of a we connected a nonprofit that I was teaching in called Himalayan Children's Charity based in Nepal. She's based in Nepal right now. And Sunita, can you walk everybody through how you're using AI agents to do the due diligence process for all the deals that come in the pipeline that I send over?
So, like JP has made the AI agents to test the deals whether like we should invest in it or not. So I have like prepared some of the questions for all the deals that I go through. So yeah, I put the questions and pull out the research, and we from then we can know like if we have to invest in that deal or not.
So
Uh,
Sunitha doesn't have decades of experience doing deal due diligence, right? Um, what I did is I created an AI agent, like she said, that has a deal orchestrator. So I've got, like I said, one for private equity, for venture capital, and all these other things. I also have a CIO agent, chief investment officer, that looks at my portfolio allocation. So Sebastian, that's where it pulls the data of my actual portfolio and the assets under management, net worth, risk management tolerances. And then my idea is to actually connect it to this Perplexity computer. So pull the feed from the internet of good quality sources of how to do the asset allocation, then do the math of, if you've got this much cash flow coming in, you should invest in this asset class and how much, right? I mean, that's one of the things that if any of us do deals, we always, yeah, we'll put it in the bucket, but really it's like, oh, I really like that deal, so I'm just going to write a check. And you're like, the problem is, hopefully, if you have a good wealth manager or financial advisor, they'll be like, you can put the check, but you got to put it this much. So all I did is, no offense to Morgan Stanley and every other firm, I just stole everybody else's information off the internet and built my own AI agent that is way more specialized than most of them to be able to do the deal due diligence. It gives me step-by-step evaluation of every single component of the deal. So venture capital analysis is going to be completely different from real estate, right? And I love Howard Marks. For those of you who don't know Howard Marks, he's like the real estate Warren Buffett. He's really, really good, great articles, a lot of content. So I pulled all his data down and I built an AI agent for Howard Marks. Actually, Sunita actually pulled all the data down for Howard Marks and built the AI agent knowledge base for that agent. So I think what you're asking, Sebastian, is that last piece, which is, can I connect it with the market data? And the answer is yes, but you would have to then build out the scaffolding for the database, because that is not really what Perplexity Computer is built for. So I will play around with it. If you guys remind me, I will show you what I've built next class, because it's more of a specific use case. But the answer is probably I can figure it out. I don't think it's going to be too difficult, because if you've got pretty static information, I mean, unless you're doing like day trading, most of us are not doing a deal every day, right? So it's going to be a lot easier to probably set it up in Perplexity Computer. I think that would be a use case, and I'm pretty confident that you'd be able to set up with an external cloud-based database that you have credentials for. I don't think that's going to be too difficult, but I will do that use case for you guys next time. Any other questions? Oh, Mike asked a question. What tool platform did you build the agent for testing deals for due diligence? Relevance. I'll actually, let me just pull it up and I'll show you. So why relevance? There's another competitor, I think it's called Stack AI, that I evaluated. I evaluated a lot of different companies, but relevance seemed to be the best tooling and pretty easy to use. So if I want to build a AI agent, this is how easy it is. Say Howard Mars. You can say create with AI, create a comprehensive AI agent representing the real estate investor, Howard Marks. Boom. So what it's going to do is it's going to go do research on Howard Marks. It's going to pull that information into the brain of the AI agent, his personality, his persona. It's going to take a while, so I won't let it run the whole thing. But by the time Mario's done, we'll be able to switch back to it and I'll show you, I'll build it out. That's only step one. So if you've seen my classes before, step one, build AI agent. Step two is the knowledge base. You've got to put in a lot of good quality information about, in this case, Howard Marks. And then once you're done and you click save, you can go to the chat for relevance, and then you can ask any question. So one of my favorites, we'll say Frank Slootman here. Tell me about yourself and what type of business problems you can help with. Now remember, I've already downloaded, it's only took 5 minutes. I pulled all the data from Frank Slootman, created the AI agent, and then was able to do a real-time questions in a meeting yesterday. So This is based on his personality. It pulled down his book content. It pulled down YouTube videos. There you go. Data domain, ServiceNow, Snowflake. It'll talk and this is the brain thinking. From a thinking standpoint, I like to use Sonnet 4.6, which is the latest model from Anthropic, to be able to do a lot of the conversational stuff if I'm getting advice. For a more mathematical and high precision analysis, I like to use Gemini or GPT 5.4. But there you go. So you've now created an AI agent. Remember, I say I've added a lot to the AI agent's RAG or the knowledge base. So it's got a lot of context and it's not going to hallucinate because it doesn't have direct access to the internet. So it's still working, but it's just created a Howard Marks AI agent. So it went online, it did research, Oaktree, um, how it thinks, core philosophy. This is now allowing it to use Google and use API to pull in articles, real estate analysis. Now, is this the best? No. But one thing I like about Relevance is all these tooling. It can add in different tools. I'm not going to do it right now because it'll take some time to set up. But I've been using Relevance AI for, I don't know, probably like 6 months or so. We switched, and I know Matt is on the call. We switched from dust.tt. It's another tool I'd recommend. It just didn't have as much tooling. I thought it was really good. It was really clean. It was really easy to use, but it just didn't have as much comprehensive tooling as Relevance had. And that's why, company-wide, we switched over. It has more sophisticated orchestration. Let me click save here. But if I go, let me see if I can actually pull it up really quickly. I don't know if I can do it that quick. Oh yeah, here you go. So our head of analytics or our head of infrastructure built a very sophisticated set of AI agents that audits any question I want to ask about all the data of the entire company that is secure and available. He was able to use Relevance to create like this orchestration. So each one of these are agents and there are conditions and logic that can be used for it. So I would say, and I don't know if Ben is on the call, but within about less than 90 days, we created everything that Palantir has with a fraction of the cost. So these tools are pretty impressive at this point in terms of creating some really high ROI in a pretty short time frame.